Today we are going to interview Christopher Paul Curtis, the beloved children's author of all the famous books set in Flint, Buxton, and Birmingham, such as The Watsons Go to Birmingham, Bud Not Buddy, The Mighty Miss Malone, and Elijah at Buxton.
So, Christopher Paul Curtis, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 59. I have 4 kids. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. My first book was The Watsons Go to Birmingham.
So, Christopher, may I ask, what inspired you to write The Watsons Go to Birmingham?
Well, my first book was The Watsons Go to Birmingham, as I've said. And in this book, well, I was inspired to write it by a children's contest where it was a contest that I had on Scholastic. In fact, it was a young adult, but it appeared I was too old, but they got this book published anyways. And I was working in a factory I didn't like, so at nights I would write, and I would write. So that's how I was inspired to write my first book.
Welcome back to an interview where we, interview Christopher Paul Curtis. So, Christopher, your book, The Watsons Go to Birmingham, sounds really interesting. I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite books to write, definitely. It's in my top 3. And it's just a great book, I feel.
So, Christopher, you mind, what is a typical day for you as a writer?
A typical day for me as a writer is probably my own schedule. Well, it is my own schedule. And I play basketball with my kids. I spend time with my kids. And I write whenever I feel like it.
So, I can see that your books are really interesting, in my sake.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. I'm a reporter for the New York Times, and I would like to ask you one question.
Yeah?
How did you think of the characters for your novels?
Now, one of my uncles was, two of my uncles actually, they inspired me to write some characters in Bud Not Buddy.
Thank you, sir. I will be leaving now.
Okay, I didn't know where that reporter came from. So, your book Elijah of Buxton takes place... How come your book Elijah of Buxton takes place in Buxton, but all your other books take place in Flint, Michigan?
Son, in my book, I think... I visited Buxton, and I got inspired. I might write a sequel, because Buxton is a real place, so I might write a sequel to this book. I enjoyed writing it, I feel that a lot of people liked reading it, so, yeah, that's it.
We've learned quite a lot about you. So, which was your favorite book to write that you wrote?
Well, that's hard. Well, thanks. He's right. It was probably The Watsons Go to Birmingham, because it was the first book I wrote, and that's how it got me into the writing business, even though I liked writing all my books.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Cool.
So, Christopher Paul Curtis, you are 59 years old. About how long have you been married?
Oh, I've been writing for 20 years. A long time, it seems to me.
So, Christopher, okay, we got one more question for you. What writers actually inspire you?
Well, that's a no-brainer for me. Toni Morrison and Mark Twain.
So, Toni Morrison and Mark Twain, they are old writers or new?
Yeah, Toni Morrison's fairly new, and Mark Twain, everybody's heard of him, so yeah. And this interview was sponsored by Yellow Corn Tortilla Chips, made by Archer Farms, and also White Rock Seltzer Water, and purified drinking water.